Next gen is coming for Madden 21, and by the looks of it, it seems awesome. But what can we really truly expect from Madden 21 on the next gen consoles? What's good, everybody? What's going on? It's your boy Rob, aka Roboto. Now check it out. We're just gonna jump right into this here. I'm gonna go ahead and play the parts of the GMM stream this morning where Krilo and the whole team went over some interesting parts for the next gen update for Madden 21. Now it's important to note this comes out December 4th. This isn't all of the information. There's still more info to come. So if you're a PC player, if you're wondering about Legends, so to speak, how these next gen stats are going to work with Legends, and also the cross-play functionality, right? If you're playing on the Xbox One and I'm playing on my Xbox next gen, are we gonna be able to play each other with this new engine and stuff like that? So just a bunch of unanswered questions still to be had, but we got our first taste, all right? So as per usual, if you're new here, subscribe, hit the notification bell, get notified anytime I'm live. Also smash that like button if you like what you see, and comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this next gen update, these new features and videos and all this cool stuff that we got. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play the video, play the trailer, do all that good stuff, and talk over it a little bit and kind of go over some of these points with you guys. All right, so keep that in mind. It's gonna be some stuff from GMM, and all questions aren't answered yet, so keep it locked here though. We'll have some more info when it all comes out. All right, so let's jump right in.
Welcome to the most realistic NFL simulation ever. It begins with next-gen player movement powered by NFL next-gen stats. RFID tags and NFL players' shoulder pads chart their every move within inches. And this information now drives all animation in Madden, delivering unique acceleration rates, directional changes, and movement for all players on the field. You'll feel the explosion of Michael Thomas in and out of his breaks, the elite acceleration and blow-by ability of Henry Ruggs, and the raw athleticism of Dalvin Cook, feeling dangerous on every touch. Defensively, players will move and position themselves based on their next-gen stats data. Elite defenders will react authentically to make plays on the ball and take unique angles when chasing down ball carriers. Next-gen player movement delivers realistic and smooth simulation gameplay based on actual NFL player data. Thanks to next-gen stats, you can only experience this in Madden. Throughout each game, key moments trigger next-gen stats replays, giving you an analytical breakdown of the play. Over 15 specific data points tracked on every down give you the information you need to make strategic decisions and optimize your gameplay. To help create these highlight moments, Playcalling is now more intuitive and accessible. You can easily call plays to get the ball in the hands of your star players. You can save your favorite plays to find quickly when the perfect moment arises. The next generation of Madden is here, and it's never felt so real. Feel game day in Madden NFL 21.
All right, so we're going to jump into the gridiron notes here, just along with Kralo and the whole stream. Going to go down his path, and I'm going to do a lot of people a favor and kind of cut the fat out of all this, right? Because there's a lot of words and a lot of clips and a lot of videos, and how much of it is real, how much of it should we actually pay attention to, right? So the first intro paragraph, we already went over the stuff. The main crux here is next gen. For some reason, they're making next gen kind of the new era here for the next gen consoles, right? For obvious reasons there, it kind of makes more sense. But the next gen player movement for the next gen stats, basically, right? So everything with next gen stats, as they told you in the video, shoulder pads, they have the sensors, they have cameras, they have all this stuff to properly analyze how these players move, react, all that good stuff, right? So the big question here early on from a lot of people is like, oh, what about Jerry Rice, right? What about Steve Young? What about Joe Montana? What about Steve McNair? What about all these guys who are legends, who are just vets and old heads that are in the game? Jack Youngblood, like as we get older, Night Train Lane. What if we get, Gale Sayers? They didn't have next gen stats back then, right? So how is it going to translate for those guys, right? Are we going to use, Saquon Barkley as a player model for Eric Dickerson or another running back? Like, what is that? What's going on there? So that's a question that is unanswered. But as far as current day and the current players are concerned, You gotta love them using next-gen stats to properly assess player movement, because for me, that's huge. A lot of these players just don't move, or it's really animation based. So if it's a real fluid player movement based on next-gen stat stuff, that's gonna be huge. Now, how much of it is actually gonna relay into the actual game, right? That remains to be seen. But visually though, this thing looks sick, okay? This looks sick on next gen. Obviously, if you're playing Series X, you're gonna get the 4K. If you're playing the Series S, you're gonna get the 1440p. I'm not sure about the differences in the PlayStation's disc and whatnot. I don't care, I don't play PlayStation. But I know for me personally on the Xbox, it's gonna be, it's going to be an improvement for sure. Now, the big question here is with the next-gen stats, the next-gen movement, all that next-gen stuff, what does it result to in online and cross-gen? Are we going to be able to get the same kind of stuff? Because if you're playing still an Xbox One, which, by the way, you totally should be still doing if you're very content with that, right? You don't have to get the next-gen console right now. And if you're playing on that old console, what does that mean, right? Here's Clint. He's about to talk about some next-gen stats and break it down a little bit more in detail. About what to expect for next gen.
So let's start out with what is next gen stats. This is real world tracking data of NFL players. Since 2015, NFL players have had RFID chips, or radio frequency identification, in their shoulder pads that is tracked by a set of cameras in every NFL stadium, allowing the NFL to collect real-time location, speed, and acceleration data for every player on their fields. Some of this data is provided to NFL teams to use for advanced analytics, game planning, scouting, and even player safety. And now this data is also provided to Madden NFL. In anticipation of the Gen 5 console launch, we've been working on integrating this data into Madden with the primary goal of delivering a gameplay experience that feels as close to authentic NFL football as possible. And now we're finally able to reveal how Madden is utilizing this awesome NFL data towards that goal.
Like I said previously, next-gen stats, next-gen player movements, okay? So again, fluid movements, fluid player movements, that's all great. It's great to say, it's great to see written, right? It's great to see in trailers. It's great to see in cinematically edited trailers. But we want to see it in the game. We want to see it in game. Because we've seen this, we've been spoon-fed all these, box words, right? As they call them, the box words, the flashy words that go on the boxes for the games, right? We've been fed all these things for years, for many games, across many sports, across many genres of video games. Can EA come through and actually pull through in the clutch, right? Is this going to be actual, literal, good movement, or is it just going to be all animation-based still? Because if it's all animation-based, just keep it. We don't want to play it, all right? Right here's little interesting things about archetypes. They're expanding the player archetypes in Madden 21. This is especially important for those who, use archetypes, especially in MUT, squads, even a little bit in franchise too. They're adding animation content and nuance to each unique archetype on next gen. Basically, as you can see down below, ball carrier is going to have a little bit of different player movement archetypes, right? Player movements per archetype. There's going to be agile, agile small, agile tall, bruiser, bruiser quick, bruiser heavy, route runners for wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. They're also split up by basic. It kind of just looks like a lot of height and weight stuff, which is interesting. So pass block movement for OLs is great. Now here's next gen stats and route running. They're using different stuff for next-gen stats and route running, which seems pretty awesome. And we're going to jump into another clip from the EA team about more route running stuff and what to expect.
Next-gen stats is going to power next-gen player movement, utilizing this player data from hundreds of games and thousands of plays. The data feeds into our animation engine to recreate player movement when running, cutting, and changing direction, all performed at realistic speeds and acceleration rates for all 22 positions on the field. This next-gen player movement will enable the most elite NFL athletes to move on the virtual field, just like they do in the real world. Next-gen player movement improves gameplay in a variety of ways. Not only does the game look and feel more realistic, but it now plays at a pace more representative of real NFL football, allowing you to better see plays develop, and you'll feel players play differently from each other on both sides of the ball.
All right, so that was a nice little clip explaining what their ideas are behind route running, right? It's not an official set in stone thing that we're going to sit here and be like, oh my God, that's the route running. Because again, it's all awesome in theory, right? In concept, but in practice, what are we actually getting, right? What are we actually getting when it comes down to it for this game? That's what everybody wants to know. That's what everybody wants to see. We don't care what you're writing on the words. It looks sick, but we want to know what's coming, okay? We don't want to sit here and be, bandied about, okay? So right here, on previous gen, receivers ran from one specific point to another specific point at top speed at all time, made very similar cuts with little difference between unique players. On next gen, player ratings and archetypes will heavily impact the quality of speed of each route, and they will be run as an entire route from start to finish rather than each individual portion of a route on previous gen. AKA, what they're going to show up next in here is basically the receivers previously were running in segments. Top speed, off the line, we're running straight, and then boom, we're going to make our cut, boom, okay? So right here, as you can see, the yellow line is the old movements, right? That's how we're doing old. It was boom, really formulaic, up and cut and up and cut. That's not how people move in the field, right? We're moving, you're moving, you're gliding through, you're scheming, you know what I mean? You're cutting, you're making slants, you're not exactly cutting right at the 40 and then boom, a lot of guys do, some guys do, but in reality, that's not how shit works, man. It's just not how shit works. So as you can see, if Michael Thomas is getting that press up top, he's going to try to slice in earlier than as if he's going to go straight out and then do the whole route and that whole route progression. So it looks cool. I like how it looks. It looks great in practice, but in execution, are we going to get this? We should be able to get this, but I want to be sure that we are, because if you guys see this, it's the same thing here with Tyreek Hill. We see these routes all the time whenever we pick plays. It's a really boom, boom, boom. There's a post. Here's the two routes for Tyreek Hill, right? What are we going to see next? You know what I mean? Is it going to be this archaic, or we're going to get something good? So let's hear more on some more route running stuff.
As I stated previously, the goal of next-gen player movement is to redefine authentic simulation football via next-gen Madden gameplay. There's nothing more authentic than using real-world NFL player data to power our gameplay, and we're the only sports games that can do it. One of the many areas where next-gen player movement really shines is with our route running. Here's a quick look at next-gen route running in action. And now I'm going to hand it off to our creative director, Connor. He's going to go deeper into the details about route running and all the other aspects of Madden's next-gen stats gameplay. Take it away, Connor.
Awesome. Thanks, Clint. Let's get into it. So as Clint mentioned, and I really want to emphasize this point, the pace of the game is now much more realistic. It's smoother and it's representative of the real NFL experience. So as a player, I can see holes develop as a runner, make informed progression reads as a passer, and more effectively guide defensive players into position to make a play. And the pace of the game has changed for the better. Now let's talk about route running specifically. In addition to speed and acceleration rates, our animation engine is also leveraging player-specific route paths from next-gen stats for receivers. In many cases, elite receivers will run their actual routes tracked by next-gen stats real NFL game data. For example, the actual route that you would see from Green Bay Packers wide receiver Devontae Adams on a deep crossing route on a Sunday will be the same route reflected by Adams in Madden NFL gameplay. And the result is natural feeling fluid routes with athletic nuance and player differentiation, all possible thanks to the incorporation of next-gen stats, which no other sports game has.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and play another clip here with next-gen route running.
The pace of the game is now much more realistic. It's smoother and it's representative of the real NFL experience. So as a player, I can see holes develop as a runner, make informed progression reads as a passer, and more effectively guide defensive players into position to make a play. And the pace of the game has changed for the better. Now let's talk about route running specifically. In addition to speed and acceleration rates, our animation engine is also leveraging player-specific route paths from next-gen stats for receivers. In many cases, elite receivers will run their actual routes tracked by next-gen stats real NFL game data. For example, the actual route that you would see from Green Bay Packers wide receiver Devontae Adams on a deep crossing route on a Sunday will be the same route reflected by Adams in Madden NFL gameplay. And the result is natural feeling fluid routes with athletic nuance and player differentiation, all possible thanks to the incorporation of next-gen stats, which no other sports game has. And now we can take a closer look as we go to the next video. So here what we're looking at is the difference between current gen and next gen. As you can see on the left on current gen, our route running and movement was very robotic. Players accelerated instantaneously with multiple destinations existing on a single route. And that comes through in its robotic nature. And on the right on next gen, we're using actual NFL player data from next gen stats, and they run an entire route from start to finish. So you can really see the difference in the quality of motion in terms of how receivers get off the line and then run the route. It's smoother, more athletic, and more realistic.
All right, so they jumped into stats and defense, okay? So the next-gen stats and defense is really important. There's AI pursuit information, acceleration, block shedding, speed, all that stuff is very important. The defense is broken at times, right? So especially with like linebackers, will this change linebackers? Will this save linebackers? Will linebackers be worth something? We can only hope. Let's see what they have to say.
So now let's talk about defense and how next-gen player movement comes to life on the defensive side of the ball. We analyze next-gen stats data on defense looking at defensive player speed, facing, and acceleration. We then took this data and applied it to the selection of our defensive movement animations, and you'll notice strafing and backpedaling look so much more natural. We've also innovated in tackling. With new tech, we've made tackling more visually authentic and user-friendly. In coverage, players will react and close on plays more consistently and predictably. Defenders will move like their real-world counterparts during both on-ball plays and impact moments. And for tackling, we built new tackle prediction and anticipation technology we call Rally, which allows us to queue up tackles prior to contact without pulling in the ball carrier. This allows us to have much more tackle variety, more anticipation for the defender leading into the tackle, and creates more visual fidelity and authentic interaction during impact moments. Also, using the Rally prediction model makes it easier for gamers to get into position to match a tackle.
So right here is something that's pretty cool. Next-gen stats powered replays. Basically, it's just showing you like what the percentage is on this play, all this, that, and the third. It's kind of stuff we see on NFL game broadcasts. It's awesome feature to add. Let's see what they got.
So some of the next-gen stats will be surfaced to the player via replays after big plays. We're tracking next-gen stats data in-game from our virtual players to create dynamic, high-def cinematic replays. These new replays highlight the biggest plays made by our virtual players. We track over 15 specific data points such as completed air distance, rushing distance, ball carrier speed, hustle tackles, and time to sack, to name a few. And what makes this cool is that we're highlighting some of your biggest plays through the lens of next-gen stats. As you can see in this example, players will get next-gen stats replays after big plays and exciting moments, just like you see on real NFL broadcasts. Not only are we using next-gen stats data from the real world, we're also collecting it for our virtual athletes during Madden gameplay to show off in these replays. And they're really cool when you actually get to pull one off.
All right, so next up here, they're going to go over what triggers the different next-gen stats replays. My one thing is like, can we turn these off if we don't want to see them, right? Because that's a lot of stuff. Next-gen play calling. So this is something that I was particularly interested in because if you read it there, so right there about the third line in, to provide a solid foundation for the player movement system, we've also made a significant update to our play call system. That's cool. Giving players more control to call the best plays for the right players on every down. Wow. By player play calling. And now you can keep all of your preferred plays on speed dial with the new favorite play marker and playbook tab, which provides an intuitive way to save your favorites and easily find them later. An easy, accessible go-to play feature is something our fans have requested for a long time, and we're excited to deliver on next gen. Yes, 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 yes. That is sounding great.
Yeah, so we're going to transition over to play call. For a proper foundation for our next-gen gameplay, we've also revamped our play calling experience. To be very honest, it's been a while since we changed our play call, and frankly, it's been overdue. But beyond that, we felt that next-gen gameplay would not be complete without a new intuitive system here. Beyond just a reskin, we've delivered a variety of innovations to make play call more user-friendly. You can now call plays by individual players, bookmark your favorite plays to save for later, and see important game information like X factors and game goals, all in the new play call screen. Overall, these enhancements make the experience much easier for new players and more dynamic for Madden veterans. Let's take a look. So what we're going to show you, here's our new play call screen. The first thing we want to call out is the ability to easily call plays by player. This makes it easier to get the ball in the hands of your stars. For example, if you want to get the ball to McCaffrey or Tyreek Hill, select him in the player filter, and you'll get to choose from all the plays featuring him as the primary threat. And this filter also includes the view showing the X factors that each player is equipped with. Next is an option commonly requested by our community, which is the ability to save favorite plays. As this video loops through, if you can see the little heart icon up in the upper right-hand corner of each play on the Chiefs series, that's representative of a play that has been bookmarked via a simple double tap of the play icon. This will save your favorite plays to a special tab in your playbook so you can find them quickly when the perfect moment arises. And your favorites will even be saved to your profile so that any persistent plays will still be there when switching your playbook for your next game.
Now this looks sick, right? This looks sick. If we kind of just stop right here, I know I'll cut it off in the middle here, but if you look down here at the bottom here, like right next to me, down below, right here, double tap, add, remove favorite, double tap, tempo, super sim. Now this is for exhibition, it looks like, obviously, but this looks awesome down here, okay? Will that translate into MUT, into squads, into other franchise? You know what I'm saying? Like, or it's just only exhibition thing? I really hope it translates across all the game modes. That would make the most sense, obviously. All right, so they're doing some more gameplay improvements too for pass leading. So that's interesting, especially on noodle arm quarterbacks right now, like Lamar and other scrambler types, okay? Run game, easier to read running lanes and find those satisfying cutback lanes. Come on, EA. You already know what the deal is with your running. But maybe this update completely changes running. Who knows? Movement in and out of the pocket is smooth and athletic. You'll feel differentiation in movement all over the field. Head tracking, head movement is more realistic. Tackling, man, we need better tackling because I feel like I'm either jumping too early or I'm not getting close enough. You know, gang tackles will trigger much more variety. That's cool. But what about individual tackling? You know, who knows? Tackling for me is just always hit or miss. You know, I have a guy screaming across the top and it doesn't matter. So improved pass rush timing. That's awesome, because we want to make sure that we have pass rush timing on lock, basically. If we're going to pass rush the quarterback, we want to make sure that we have our proper guys getting there as fast as we want them to get there, right? It don't really make sense. This is just obvious stuff. And then blazing fast load times. Now, if you peeped a video I made earlier, I already showed you guys the difference between the Series S and the Xbox One, and it is insanely fast already on the game that is not even optimized for the next gen. So if that's what it is, then next gen will probably be even more faster, and that's awesome because we love load times. We love to see how fast everything could be. So this is awesome. It's exciting, especially for the load times. All right, so that's about it. That's pretty much everything they touched on. Again, nothing too crazy in particular that I wanted to point out. I just wanted to go over all this stuff with you guys and kind of get your thoughts too. Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think? Again, my initial thoughts are this looks great, but how's it going to play? How's it going to feel? How's it going to actually happen, right? That's one. Two, what is the deal between, you know, guys who are playing on the old gen versus new gen? What are they going to do for that? Especially stuff when it comes to competitive stuff, right? Weekend league, even some head-to-head stuff on regs. What is that going to come down to for that at the end of the day? And the last part here that I think is very interesting too, and we'll see how it translates in the future, is legends, right? Legend cards, legend players. Are we, like I said earlier, are we going to use Saquon Barkley as an archetype for Barry Sanders, right? Is that basically what they're going to do? Are they going to copy Barry Sanders? It's like, you can't really do much with a guy like Gale Sayers. You know, you don't have his next gen stats. You don't have all those things. All you can really do is go off the footage and what you see in his stats and all that stuff. So that's why I think they included some little wording about ratings and things like that, because when you get something with older veteran players, you can't really do stuff like tracking player movement on an NFL Sunday. So, but we'll see, right? All this is, we'll see. December 4th is creeping up. It's approaching. It's about 3 weeks or 2-3 weeks away right now. I can't really do calendar math, so I might be very wrong on that, but it's like it's coming up. It's within the next month, so keep an eye out for that, guys. It should be awesome. If you don't have your console yet, I understand. I feel you. Don't really sweat it, and maybe hold out to see what we actually get at the next gen, because knowing EA, the shit might break week 1. But that's all. I have faith that it will come out and benefit us as players, but I've been led astray before. Okay, so that's all for today's video. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate y'all so very much. Catch you next time.